So, welcome to another episode of Hayley and Leanne, Keeping It Real. Today we're going to be speaking about abuse and our understanding of this and our experiences. We just go with the flow and let it just come out. But Leanne, do you want to start this week?
Yeah, thanks, Hayley. Okay, I'll start. Well, abuse is a phenomenally huge subject, and we're only just going to really scrape the surface of all of it, really. Since COVID and the lockdown and things like that, domestic abuse is absolutely at its highest recorded level it's ever been. And so is mental health. So the two are interlinked. Because most people that are in an abusive situation, it causes distress, and which causes mental health, mental sickness. So I currently work in in domestic abuse and mental health with Kim Bailey, and we run a program called Wolf and Wow, and it's been running for the year. So we've seen quite a lot of changes and seeing the impacts of this all. So what I wanted to firstly talk about is the understanding of abuse, and it's a huge umbrella. It's not just the one thing I will say is that very frequently a lot of our participants in the groups and stuff and one-to-ones don't actually realise they're in an abusive relationship or have had an abusive parent or sibling or friend or whatever it is, how they've experienced abuse. So and a lot of our participants have also not really seen that. They've really believed that it's not abuse until someone hits you and someone's violent towards you. That was a big eye-opener. So there's loads of different forms of abuse. There's financial, emotional, physical, mental, sexual. I mean, I can't, there's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So that's just some of the ones under the umbrella. So, but in my understanding, and I feel very privileged to work with this and within that program, because I've learned so much about myself. I grew up in domestic abuse from the age of 10 to 14. Domestic abuse and mental health, actually. So, and there was a lot of abuse in my childhood. So it's been a real opportunity to be amongst this program. So, right, I'll start, shall I? Sort of waffling. Right, so for me, my understanding really is that most abusers are inherently insecure, and the way they this is not a gender issue. This is men and women. This is a human being thing. It's not. It's you know. There's a big thing about women always getting beaten, but or abused badly. But it really is. There's women and men being abused, and children and everything else. So it's not gender specific. Get my words right. So in all of this, my understanding has been that it's an inherently insecure mind that makes people suffer in abuse, the way they have to control, the way they have to manipulate, the way they're self-obsessed with what they're feeling. You make me feel, so therefore I have to do this to you. You're causing this because you are this, that, and the other. They're just classic scenarios. And then that person who's perpetrating somebody in any form of relationship is actually in deep suffering themselves. And that's something that was a big eye-opener for me, and actually helped me in a lot of forgiveness for a lot of my abusers. I was abused as a child, then I went on to have quite verbally and physical abusive relationships with partners. So I never saw it as the insecure mind and that they're in suffering. I just always thought that the people they were doing it to was suffering. So that was a great insight for me to have an understanding on that, and it helped me with my forgiveness in those people that have perpetrated me. So also there was a really good Kim used this thing in groups, and it always stuck, and I'd like to share it with you so that it could help other people. and it's the insecure dog analogy. So, and I remember sitting there, and I use it all the time now. And it's like, so, if only we had behaviours of dogs. So a dog goes up and says hello to another dog, and they sniff the dog's behind, and instantly they can tell, they start saying hello, instantly they can smell if that dog's a bit off and insecure, because so they kind of, oh no thanks, do you know what I mean? And so because they know instinctively that insecure dog will either get them harmed, into a fight, loss of life, harm to the pack, whatever. But so not that we want to go around sniffing each other's behind, but it'd be nice if we could get that that knowing that person's a bit off, because with the domestic abuse or abusive relationships, in my own experience, I'm talking, it's been like a gradual thing that's happened. I've not seen it straight away. It's like a damp, dark moss that grows.
Yeah.
And it really is a gradual process, and it can start off with the most subtle things. One, oh, you're not wearing that, are you? Or, I don't like you doing that because it makes me feel, I don't want you going out with your friends because, I'll be sitting here missing you because I love you so much. And then maybe like talking about people that I love, and just saying, oh, haven't you ever noticed about them? They're always doing this to you. They're always doing that to you. They're always like, putting you down and stuff like that. So it's like, and I'm like, have they? You kind of like, then you start suffering with a bit of confusion, doubt, because you're in the presence of maybe narcissistic behaviour, or, so they're just some of the subtle things that have happened to me. But I do deeply believe that through all the abuse that I've suffered, it shows me yet again how resilient us human beings are, because I'm sitting here with you, Hayley, today, talking about it. I'm involved in a domestic abusive program that helps women and men see. I am talking from a place because I've been involved in all this stuff.
Yeah.
So and it comes back down to being around an insecure mind who perpetrates and makes you suffer. It really does bring out those insecurities in you. And when you're so detached from true self and you don't truly know how we work as human beings, you can really lose yourself. It's like I see abusers being lost with a contaminated mind of real unhelpful beliefs about how to show up and treat others, and not be very nice. So I think that's all for now. Hayley, do you want to carry on?
And people who have experienced domestic abuse somewhere make the greatest teachers, should we say. I'm going to use the word teachers, even though I don't like that word, but I can't think of another one. But because you've experienced it, you're able to empathise and understand others, which is what everyone wants, isn't it? To be understood and listened to. So thank you, Leanne, for sharing.
All right.
And yes, so this is really, you know what, we've got new chairs and I can't put my feet on the floor because they're so high up. So I've got my feet on a cushion, but it's really uncomfy.
Yes, because you are the smallest person I think I know.
I know.
You're tiny.
So I've got a cushion, but I might as well have a stool. But my experiences and understanding of domestic abuse, like yourself, I didn't have a clue about none of this really. You'd heard it, but I always associated it with physical. That was quite, it's obvious, isn't it? You get the physical scars and but I wasn't really too clued up about the emotional stuff. But years ago, no one really spoke about that. It was only the physical. I'm talking about years ago. They're now coming to turn, like more people are understanding and calling it a crime now. With emotional abuse, coercive control, that's now a crime. You all right?
Yeah, fine. Just ignore me.
Right. So when I first started to learn about this stuff, I was studying to be a counsellor, and at the time, the relationship I was in was very emotionally controlling, and I didn't have a clue. I knew something was wrong, But when I started studying and working with domestic abuse victims, I was sitting there thinking, do you know, this happens to me at home. How can I teach others this stuff if I can't even, you know, sort this out at home? Oh my God, this is happening to me. And in this relationship, so mine was more when, you know, if you'd had an argument. Now, a healthy argument would be, you know, you have your disagreement or your argument, and then you calm down and you come together and you sort it out, shall we say, and then it's normally an outcome and everything's back to normal, shall we say. Might be for about 10 minutes, still, you know, tempers are still here. But with this relationship, I remember the atmosphere after the argument would go on for a couple of weeks, and the silence was killing me. But I always got told, you know, what's wrong with you? Like, you're mad. Why do you need us to sort this out? And I just couldn't. The atmosphere was horrible, and I used to think, well, it must be something wrong with me. You know, it must be, you know, I'm causing them distress. It must be something wrong with me. And this was going on for a good few months after I started to learn about it. But after a little while, you know, the more you learn, the more your consciousness expands, and you start to think, hang on a minute, this is not healthy. You know, it's healthy to, I don't know, get the hump for an hour or so, but after that, it shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't be punishing the other person with your silences. But some people genuinely don't know no different. They just think, well, that's all I know. How to resolve this is by silence. But what the other person experiences is mental stress, should we say.
Yeah.
So this was a big eye-opener for me. And then it would be other things, like you said, if I had some male friends at the time, and it'd be like, you're cheating.
Yeah.
No, they're male friends. No, well, why do you want to talk to them and not talk to me? And I was, you know, all this would go on, and people were pointing it out to me because I was studying this subject, and I was like, no, but he does this. He does all this good stuff. He can't be like that. So it took for me to accept. But I was very much, no. But when he's good, he's really good. But does the bad outweigh the good? Oh, yeah, it does actually. Yeah, but it took a while, because you get so manipulated, and you know, you're left confused and controlled, and you believe everything they say. Mm-hmm. So you're, even though you know on a gut feeling, this is red flags, this doesn't feel right, you ignore it because the damage has sort of been done. So when you know, if you're in this kind of relationship, you are vulnerable, because you've been mentally abused, emotionally, whatever you went through. So you're vulnerable. So my understanding was, if I was to leave this relationship, I'd be on my own forever. You know, this is what was it. This was going through my mind. And, you know, when I empathized with myself back then, I would not have gone. First, I was thinking, no, because I will never meet anyone that loves me like they love me, because I was told this. Nobody would put up with your rages or your defenses. But as you said earlier, when you're in this kind of relationship, you turn into someone you don't recognize, and then you become the person that is abusive. And then it's turned down on you. You're mad. You know, no, it's you. You're the abusive one. Or, you know, when people play mind games. I had a client actually the other day that he said about this thing called mind games. That, so say you message someone every morning at 8 a.m. Every single morning at 8 a.m. And then the person purposely thinks, right, I'm going to not message them today at 8 a.m. And straight away you're like, oh, why haven't that person messaged me? And it's already getting the games plan. The mind starts saying, are they going off of me? And then they start doing other ways. I had another client where they kept on taking money out and then putting it back. You're losing the plot. But they was doing it because to confuse them. And another classic is, when you're in this domestic abusive relationships and you're made to feel like you're going crazy, some people use kids. Well, I would take the kids and I would tell everyone you're mad because look, you're losing money, and it's not ever, it's never gone. So that we start to think that we're going mad, and we're so fearful of losing things like children or family. Your family won't want to know you now. They won't understand why you want to leave me because I'll get on well with all of them. Because that's another classic, isn't it? They're always the lovely person to the family, and the family think, well, there's nothing wrong with them.
Mm.
So it's all this, but it's all a build-up, isn't it? It's all a build-up. And it's such a whirlwind of emotions you go through, and until you start to see a bit clearer, then you're able to see, do you know what? That was part of the abuse. Like when you would become abusive yourself. That was part of part of the emotional distress, the confusion, the frustration, so that was part of it when we turn into someone we're not. And the reason why I know this, because now I'm in a healthier relationship where I get my own headspace. I'm not, like talk tat where I can't breathe, or, you do this, you do that, you do this, it's your fault. I'm able to see, well, I don't do this in this relationship, so it must have never been me.
Mm.
I don't actually do this. But when you're in this relationship, you turn into someone you don't recognize, where you become, to protect yourself, the abusive person.
Mm.
And it's such a, it's so hard until you step out to be able to see this.
Mm.
Yeah, it was.
No,
yeah.
No, it really is. There was something you said that was like, what you're talking a lot of sense there, because it was only in actually being present in a domestic abusive group where I was facilitating, that it was like a thunderbolt and lightning in the room, and it's all of a sudden I was just like, because one of the people were talking about a situation they were in and saying, because her partner I used to like a drink.
Yeah.
And then she said, but in the morning he said some awful things to me, and in the morning I'm just like, but you said this and you said that, and he would go, oh, but it was it's because I was drunk. And, I don't mean it.
Yeah.
Or and stuff like that. And as I sat there and I was like, oh my god, I'm still in a domestic abusive relationship. At the time,
wow.
I was in one and I didn't realise it. And then I was just like thinking, I'm going to have to give up my job. I can't, because my thing's about being authentic.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. And now I've got to choose him, job. And it was absolutely the most battiest feeling. And then, and actually deciding that, I want to do this. I want to help others in whatever vein that is for me, and I have to be authentic. So I can't sit here helping other people that are trying to establish where they are and trying to help them connect to true self and stay in their power, when I'm actually on a Friday and a Saturday night. There's probably going to be an argument because he's had too much to drink and he said something horrible, and I've come back, in reaction. And then, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And so, so that luckily for me, I woke up to that, because previously the relationships had been a bit different kinds of abuse and not this kind of abuse. So it was for me to see. So, I thank all the people that have not been particularly nice to me, because it's really shown me what I'm here to teach other people now. When you're forever teacher pupil. Do you know what I mean? Because we're forever learning anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, that was interesting, a really interesting thing. But there's all this. It's so immense. What can happen in manipulation without us even realizing. Like there's an argument. So that, like you have an argument with your partner, and then and then it's like the next day it's like, oh, don't worry about it. Oh, whatever, swept under the carpet. But there's never any resolution, no discussion. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear what you've got to say. They'll just be like, you said this to me, and you're now never going to be forgiven because you came back at me and you said this.
Yeah.
Like, hang on a minute, you said quite a lot before I got to that point. So, do you want to take ownership on your part in this? No, it's you because of your past and what you suffered and la la la. And you're, and I've had that before. And it really is even simpler than that now. I see it. It's when I learned by reacting as abusive as that other abuser, because I would come out kicking and screaming. Because I've been around this, for a big part of my childhood. So I'd be like, you can't hurt me, you don't do this, you don't. And I'd start being abusive back. Yeah. Because it was like a programming that I had. So then when I learned the difference between responding and reacting. So when you respond to somebody, now I'm in a healthy relationship. Yay! It's about, everyone has fallouts. Everyone has, that's life. There's ups, there's downs. Nothing's like, that picture postcard. That's life. But it's the way we navigate and the way we flow through it. So I always would think you have an argument and then that's it. We're finished, because that's been said. We're done. We're over. So in this, like in the relationship I'm in now. Things are that there might be a little bit of a moment, but it's discussed. I felt this and I felt that, and then that's the growth in a relationship. When you can sit down, have a conversation. You might not agree with each other, you might see things differently, that's okay, but you don't have to argue about it. And then you learn more about each other, and then the connection becomes stronger because you're growing, because there's no hostility. It's just that's how we're getting to know each other or something. Or it's like, and I'm so sorry I said that, or I'm so sorry I didn't realize I did that, or whatever, and just apologizing for your part in it. And I've never known anything like that.
But that's quite scary, isn't it? Sorry, Leanne, I've just spoke over you.
No, it's fine, darling, go on.
No, I would just say that's quite scary. If you've been, from my own experience and then what clients have shared, when you've been in that relationship where if you was to take ownership and say sorry, it got held against you, and it was like it was grabbed and used every single time you had an argument. But you even owned up to that. So that is on you. You even owned up. And that's the hard thing. So when you do get into a healthy relationship, when I got into a relationship with Steve, I was petrified. Even though I trusted him, we get triggered back emotionally to the trauma when it happened. So when I was just about to go sorry, I would freeze, because I'd be thinking, what about if he holds it against me? Because that's what happened in the previous relationship. So that takes time, doesn't it, to be able to say, sorry, hold my hands up here. Because there is previous fears from the other one. And once you start to trust yourself and the person, then you're able to say, do you know what? I'm sorry. And the other person goes, thank you. Or, it's okay. And it never gets held against you. That's when you start to trust yourself and them a little bit more.
Yeah, I just think it's when you remain in your power.
Yeah.
When you remain in your power, and I don't mean like a Power Ranger.
No, you don't
with
mean
your weapon.
Yeah.
No, I mean in your power. When you work from the inside out, when you truly know that you're enough and you're worth, and you're not afraid to say your point of view, or because I now know that I'm not stepping out of my power and allowing myself to get to that point, and if I do, then it's like I'll totally apologise for it, because by apologising for it, I'll be mortified.
Yeah.
So, but if that person is forgiving, if that person's meant to be in my life and meant to be standing by my side, they'll accept my apology and know how genuine I am. But it's when we step out of our power and give it away to another person, whether it be, as I said before, parents, children, partners, whatever the relationship. It's not just
It's not just intimate, it's friends as well. It happens.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and especially with manipulation. So, but when you can like be really present with yourself, and you see what's going on, or it might be not till afterwards. It's like, hang on a minute, like, that was a bit sneaky, getting that one in there, or So it's so much easier for me to remain in my power, because I know who I am. All the learning, all the knowledge, all the experience in my life, and all the trauma I've experienced, most of it I can so see that it was like a battle of the ego. Like, one was reacting and I'd have to come back, so it'd be like all the time. So then I became as abusive. And it's boundaries as well, like if no one when I learned about boundaries and the innocence in other people. There's an innocence in people that abuse. They might have always been around this stuff. They might have been brought up in an abusive household. They might think that's to be normalised situation. So, so it's like if no one puts a boundary in with somebody that's not behaving fair, or is showing up in a not very nice way, if you don't say I'm not putting up with this, and keep to it, that person, you're teaching somebody something by putting your boundaries in and remaining in your power, so you don't give yourself away. So that it's really simple when you know stuff, but when you're in it, it's really hard to see. And
that's because when you work on yourself, it's more, you do have an inner confidence, that what, I mean, this is my stuff, that's yours, I'll deal with mine, you deal with yours. There's an inner confidence, but I'm just going by experiences from like people that are innocent in this, where they're not purposely trying to, but they've still got that old stuff, and that's to be worked on. For example, I had a client that had been in repeated patterns emotionally, not physically, but verbally, sexually, in another way. I just talk about the sexual abuse quickly. Actually, one of them, we were speaking about this last week, actually, me and you, about with sexual abuse, it's not just as clear cut as, it's like, you've been physically touched. Actually, sexual abuse counts when you've been manipulated. So I had a client that was in a relationship, and if she didn't have sex, she would be, well, you don't love me anymore. Have you met someone else? So to keep the peace, so she didn't have the atmosphere, she would perform, and she'd have to get herself in a mindset to do, to have sex that night. Like you said, oh, it's Saturday night. Oh, I better.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. Be like, it's Saturday night. But you've not been very nice to me for the whole week. You've been really foul. But it's Saturday night. Oh, hang on, sorry, I meant to just flick into some sexual diva. Like, when you've not been nice to me. Why would I want to be that intimate with you? Why would I want to connect with you when you've said this about me and that about me? Why would you want to get intimate with me if you think I'm such an awful person just because it's Saturday night?
It's Saturday night.
Or the
other classic is
bonkers,
which is awful. This one, I've had, another client come to me about this. If they didn't do, how do I describe it? Things that were more, in their mind, adventurous, they were boring. They were
Yeah.
boring. So they would do things because they didn't want to lose them. And this is,
Wow.
I have such deep empathy because, oh, I must be boring. What's wrong with me? Let me just try it. And they hate it, but they still do it. This breaks my heart because it's, they've been manipulated, and
Yeah.
and that's part of the abuse. And it's, but, sometimes you can just say, like you say, take your power back. No, I don't want to do that. And the other person was innocently being abusive. They could just go, yeah, that's fine. Why don't you say that in the first place? Because like you said, it's learned behaviour abuse, isn't it? There might be one person watching this that might think, oh my God, I do all this. I do all this. Now that takes guts, and that's responsibility to even look that you might do that, doesn't it? To actually.
Yeah, that's when I'll talk. Sorry. Talk over you.
We've both done it.
Yeah.
We're both passionate.
That's what I'm trying to talk about, the innocence
Yeah.
in people who are in deep suffering. You don't, it could be, I don't know, they've had a parent that's been manipulative, like, if you loved me, then you would do this, and this is like to a child. That's not very, it starts, and then it's like it's a programming, but it can take anything to see that, any insight along the way to know that that's not right. When I think this is where an education in schools would be really helpful, especially sex education of what a healthy sexual relationship is. So no one should ever ask someone to do something if they're not willing to do it. If you have to persuade that it's a good idea, then there's and that person needs persuading. If someone goes, do you fancy trying this? I've always wondered. The other person goes, yeah, all right, I'm up for that. Fine. But if the other person's like, oh, I'm not sure about that, that's an indicator that they're not 100% wanting to do that. And I can't, there's a little bit of a blurred guideline on that, because if someone's not enjoying something, then surely it's not enjoyable for the other person. But that's another, I don't really want to go into too much in that. So it's always putting your boundary in. If you don't want to do something, even on a day trip, it's somewhere that you don't really want to go, it's like, no, I just don't fancy it. And if that other person's like, oh, please, just go, well, if I'm going to go to Blackpool for a day, how about we go somewhere you want to go? Or it's always about balance and fairness.
Yes,
and
balance.
I'm using the day trip because I don't want to go into the other stuff. So it's fairness. It's like, it's not, nothing has to be forced. If someone's forcing you to do anything that you're not comfortable with, it's okay to say no. And if that,
no.
yeah, because there's innocence in everybody.
Yeah,
Nobody's perfect. We're all perfectly imperfect. But yeah.
So it's such a big one, isn't it? Abuse. It's such a big one where it can be covered in so many, but for me, like the easiest way to describe it is when somebody causes you physically or mental stress, there's abuse in there somewhere.
Yeah, because it's mental torture.
Yeah.
When you're constantly having to overthink, am I doing this? Is this going to, you're constantly questioning yourself, in that doubt in your mind, something's off.
I know,
something's off. So it's mental torture. That's why domestic abuse and mental sickness and they're so run along parallel.
Yeah.
Because if something's off, then you do suffer mental torture.
And and this exactly what it is a torture. I remember in a previous relationship, I would start to write things down that I'd said and they'd said, because I was so confused, but I didn't say that. But he did say that, you know. And again, it's like, you know, and then I'll be get told, well, you're crazy, you're writing things down, you have lost it. And I'd lost it. But I remember, because it was so confusing. Like, if it was just you talk, I talk. I think once I said, right, I won't interrupt. You don't interrupt, I won't. And I sat there for about 25 minutes just listening. Mm-hmm. And inside I was screaming, but I was like, no, I said I would listen. I said one word, and the person screamed at me and walked out the door. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And it weren't much. Yeah. I thought, I can't do it anymore. You know, so it's when you've got the other person's best interest at heart, you don't want to do things like this.
No.
You know, or if you did do it, you would recognise it and you'd think, I've got to work on that. I need to work with this, because this is not really me. But yeah, it is that mental. I remember that so clearly.
But it's like when you know someone has said something and then they're standing with you arguing, that's not what you said. Okay, it might not have been what I said, but this is what I meant. So let me just be clear with my communication again. And they're like, yes. Oh, this is what you do. You freak, you this, you that, name call. You know, self-esteem being bashed to the floor. I've said I'm sorry about what I said, but it's not what I meant. Maybe I come across properly. And then, you know, that one person's like scrabbling around trying to, you know, they've said sorry and they're trying to actually communicate. You're not letting me speak. I've had enough of you speaking. That's all you do. It's all you. And it's just like, so it doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter how you say it or what you're doing. It's never going to be to the level of what they expect from you.
No.
Someone, you know, when you, you know, it's not that they don't love you. I'm not saying they haven't got love for you when that abusive person, but it's just like they can only love you to the capacity that they can love themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just, that's it for me. Like, if someone's showing up and they're saying they love you, but they do this to you, and they have no remorse, no understanding, or they have no growth in learning what they're doing is not too good, then that to me is not what love is. You know, they can only love you to that capacity.
Yeah.
You know, bless them. I didn't mean that in a condescending way, by the way.
No, it didn't come across like that. It didn't, you know.
Oh, okay. Check
yourself. But you know, you were talking about just earlier about boundaries, and I know we're going to do another one on this, but you know, like we spoke about, it's not gender specific or adults. Mm-hmm. Recently, I'd been, like, Megan had been coming across like a rah all the time, and I thought, it's just her teenage years. It's just the teenage years, you know, like it's just the alcohol, or it's just this. And I thought, hang on a minute, like I'm not going to help her by, you know, allowing her to do this. As soon as you put the boundaries down, she comes safer, and she even looks safer. And also look in the mirror time, hang on a minute, when she's screaming at you, you're screaming back. You're like having a child, you're having an argument with a 12-year-old. And it's just classic. I thought, this reminds me of the relationships when I'm arguing this, but you did this last week, and I thought, oh, hang on a minute, I've really got to help her now. I've got to step up, be the adult, be the person that she needs right now, and also give myself a break when I do lose it. If I'm like, right, sorry about that, Megan, weren't okay, but give yourself a break. When you start to learn about yourself, you're going to repeat patterns. Isn't it? You repeat patterns, and that's the self-awareness.
Absolutely. And the more awareness you have, you really do see that what patterns, behaviours and beliefs you have, they just start falling away anyway.
They do.
And they sometimes come back in, you know, and you see something else, you see something different that really doesn't work for you. and that pattern, wherever it was born, it's not even important where it's born, but it starts to get less and less.
Yeah.
But it comes back just to teach you again, and it's just like, and before you know it, they've just gone. The more awareness you do, the more self development, the more, you know, the more you get more conscious about how you show up, because you're learning stuff all the time, and about behaviour and the way we work as human beings. It's fascinating. I love it.
No, it is. It is. But
what serves you and what doesn't serve you.
Yeah. What serves you and what doesn't serve you. I like that. I don't think I need to cover anything else. Let me just check.
No, I'm all right. Oh, you're very organised. You had a list.
I know. Do you know why? Because I've been so busy in work. I was like, right, podcast.
And there's Leanne winging it.
You're wing. But you know what? I normally wing it, but this week I thought, you know what? I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try and be a bit organised.
Good for you.
But yeah, I don't think. I think I have. I think I spoke about enough. We've covered, you know, the basics of it. I'm sure this will come up in another podcast in another way. But or we might have a guest on who would like to talk about, share their story, and how, you know, whether they're like us, never knew we was in it. That's a big one. You don't actually know, because we all associate domestic abuse with physical, where it's obvious.
Yeah, and having a guest on would be great. And it really is just we're talking about our own experiences. We're not saying that we are right. Nope. We're not saying, you know, this is it. Nope. We're just talking about our own experiences and our own understanding in it. So, you know. And
how life worked after when we started to see it.
Definitely.
That is where we get it from. We speak, you know, we talk about wisdom a lot. I do believe when we experience stuff and, you know, come through it, it does go into our wisdom, and we're able then to help others.
Absolutely. And wisdom's always got your back.
It has.
You know, wisdom's always got your back. You listen to that on the inside of you.
Yeah.
It's always there. It never left you. It's always there. And we are so resilient as human beings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We are.
So, yes, that's it.
Yes. So, so anyone wants to come on any of our podcasts, we'd love that, wouldn't we?
We would.
To have a chat with another. Yeah, I would love that.
So if you could just like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is you have to do. And thank you to all those people that are doing it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And if, as we said, we started this because if one person gets something from what me and Hayley talk about, then that's fantastic. So love you, Hayley, and
lovely, Leanne.
See you very soon.
Yes, until the next one.
Yes. All right, darling. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.